Welcome to the Chat Cave, episode 3 here on McGTV. That's youtube.com/Mike McGTV. And we're your hosts, Mike McG and Max Andrews from 3 Geeks Podcast over at youtube.com/3 Geeks Network. And I'm definitely indulging in a lot of today's subject matter because it is blizzarding like hell outside right now. You would have sworn Mr. Freeze came to town with his diamonds, looking to freeze Gotham.
Ice to see you today, Mike.
Yep, it is that kind of like you just got to hibernate today. And what better way to hibernate than with some of these games that we're going to be talking about today from the Arkham series, Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, Batman Arkham Knight, and even the kind of sort of prequel from another game studio, Batman Arkham Origins. But before we get into those games, I thought I'd ask Max a little bit of like what his history was with Batman and video games before these installments.
Actually, I didn't have too much Bat video gaming. If you remember the original NES Batman, that was pretty much all of the video gaming Batman that I'd ever played. But when you look down the line, most of them are just like when the movie comes out and they make a game to go along with the movie, and they weren't so good. But I definitely distinctly remember the NES Batman video game, which is really, really hard, and it's kind of one of those not so great NES games, but I still love it. That's where I got my start.
Yeah, I never had an NES when I was younger. I did get into Super Nintendo though, and the movie tie-in games sometimes showed up there, but what I always found myself playing was The Adventures of Batman and Robin on Super NES.
Yeah.
That kind of it pulled stories like from the animated series at the time and did their best to adapt them. Like you'd be running up a giant Nutcracker's like rifle in like a Joker Christmas segment. I remember that much. And you actually had to solve the riddle of the Minotaur in the Riddler's maze.
That's awesome.
I was like, I had to remember exactly. I'm like, oh man, what was the answer in that episode? Because it was the exact same riddle, and I was like calling upon my knowledge of the animated series at the time. But I remember the
episode 37 and find this out.
Yeah, exactly. Episode 37. What was it? If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Yeah,
is that
I think that's the first Riddler. Yeah, the first Riddler episode.
Was the riddle of the Minotaur in that one?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He had that had to do with video games too, because he used to be a video game developer, and his boss, who looked like Tony Stark, ended up embezzling him out of it or something. And anyways, that's another podcast. But yeah, so there were those video games, and they were fine for the time. But then as soon as we got to like some next gen type video gaming, the quality really wasn't there for me. Like there was what was it, Batman Dark Tomorrow, which was, I think it was on not PlayStation but like GameCube, and I just remember that being a very lame experience as a Batman game. And then there was also the Batman Begins video game,
which wasn't very good.
But at the same time, there were some things lifted from that game that made it into this series actually a little bit, and maybe we'll find the similarities as we explore in here. But yeah, for a while, like there was some pretty abysmal endeavors for Batman gaming, and of course we all know for other superheroes like Superman for the N64, flying through rings.
Terrible game. Dark Tomorrow was also released on the original Xbox.
That's what it was. Yeah, original Xbox. I remember that did pull like a lot of unknown Batman villains and gave them an opportunity to shine for a little bit, but at the same time, it really wasn't that fulfilling an experience.
Yeah, it came out in 2003, that one.
Yeah.
But so I kind of left most of the Batman games alone. I remember wanting to play the Rise of Sin Tzu game because it had a cool cover. It had like a Batman the Animated Series kind of feel to it, if I recall correctly.
I mean, it was set in that universe, yeah.
So yeah, I missed that one, and that also
Uh,
2003.
You didn't miss much. I remember. I own that game. Somewhere with my GameCube stuff. I've got it stashed away. But you got to control Batman, either Batman, Nightwing, Batgirl, or Robin, in a faithful adaptation of Double Dragon, essentially. But that was it. Like, it didn't feel like Batman at all. It was just a beat 'em up, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, those things happened, and then the world was, hungry for a good Batman full immersion experience.
mm-hmm.
And I think they knocked it out of the park in 2010 with Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, that was the first installment, and that was from it was from Rocksteady, right? But also Eidos, I believe,
Yes.
who had done was it Tomb Raider?
I'm not sure, actually.
I believe Eidos might have been the people behind Tomb Raider when that first arrived, but yeah, like that group in Rocksteady, yeah, brought to us, I feel, the most immersive Batman experience at that point in video games.
And is this the first time they used like Kevin Conroy and like the whole, pretty much the animated series cast or was Kevin Conroy doing the voices for?
He had been in the Rise of Sin Tzu one. Yeah, they'd used his voice in previous games.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, because he's no stranger to the franchise, of course. And I believe Mark Hamill had dropped in as Joker for one of the games at that point. Huh. But yeah, this is about the time. This was the first time you'd ever heard them cast as these characters in continuity outside of the animated series.
Right. And yeah, they got a whole bunch of they just really pulled a lot from the animated series for the voice talent. Arlene Sorkin is back as Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
They did get a different Riddler voice. I'm pretty sure the Riddler's not the same.
Oh, we'll get to the Riddler. But yeah, it was for I'm trying to imagine what my kind of first impressions were without knowing what was to come later on with City and with Night, especially. Yeah. Like, that was a very well detailed, well servicing to fans interpretation of the franchise. And yeah, you felt like you were Batman at that point. Like, it wasn't just like, okay, there's kind of this setup where I got to beat up this many bad guys. I mean, there was where you beat up bad guys and stuff, but it felt like a Batman driven kind of story, as opposed to like, okay, I got to meet this objective and this objective for the sake of the game. I'm like, no, I'm immersed in this story.
Right. It's like watching a really awesome, kind of, odd Batman, movie. Like, it's got a very cinematic experience as well as the gameplay, which is, keeps you involved. And we hadn't seen anything like this from a Batman game, or again, with the little touches from the Batman Begins game. But yeah, there was nothing this crazy, because this is when freaking like Assassin's Creed is coming out,
right?
And games like that, and they really pulled a lot from those, to find out what people were doing, and then they just applied it to Batman in the best way possible. And yeah, it's it's, if you were just to watch the game play out, it works as entertaining. It works as a movie if you're just sitting and watching what's going on.
Right.
And that's the other thing I think they were missing too. Like, the story never held up as well as it did with this game.
Yeah. And the fact that how you went about approaching certain objectives could really enrich your experience in the game itself. And again, it was one of those things I feel that they did lift from the Begins game, where this was kind of a feature of the Begins game where you could intimidate thugs, and the way you went about executing certain attacks or tactics really made you more effective or more intimidating. Like, this is the first time the fear probability actually played into the game.
Yeah, and it also allows for different gameplay, because you're like, okay, I can just scare these guys, have them run around and accidentally shoot each other, or I can take them all out just full force coming out. Batman drops in the middle of the room and starts kicking ass. Like,
Yeah.
there's definitely a different feel to the game, however you choose to handle any situation, and that helps you. It helps it not become too boring or repetitive, because you do have to go about certain situations in different ways.
And also, like, the replayability factor plays into that very well too. Because then, if you go in one certain way, you can be like, "Well, when I do the game around this maybe a second time, let's see what happens if I take this action instead."
Right.
And I feel that helped that. Plus, it allowed for the ultimate in-game cheat, which is detective mode.
Well, I mean, in life, I'm going to say, quote unquote, life, Batman, he's cheating. He's better than everybody else. So we should get that experience too, Mike.
Yeah, I suppose that is true. I mean, so the story, the way you're about the combat and gameplay abilities you're able to have in there, and the diversity of gameplay in a way, like, yeah, the fact that like part of it would be, you can just drop into a room of about 30 thugs and just beat the hell out of all of them, or you'll have the nightmare sequences of like the Scarecrow, where it's more about like being evasive and trying to work your way around the controls yet again.
Yeah, it was that part was also kind of like side scroller, so you got this whole different like mini game to it. And I thought they were really cool.
And it really played on the disorientation of what it would probably be like, because of the fact that like your angles would be constantly changing and you would have to adapt to using the controls in a different way at the time, because of the fact that like you were always off kilter. Nothing was ever quite right with the setup.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was sufficiently creepy also. I mean, they just did a good, you're like, holy crap, what's going on? Then like your dead parents show up or something, what it's like.
That freaked me out the first. I'm like, even though I knew it was kind of coming, I'm like, okay, we're in a morgue. He's clearly been infected by some kind of toxin, and there are body bags there moving around. I'm like, oh, okay, one of these is gonna have his parents in it. I'm like, it's like I just know it's gonna happen. Was there anything in the first game that didn't work for you?
I didn't really like the Joker Titan ending. I thought that was like they kind of just gave up to the video game-ness of it, and that was a little far-fetched as far as the story was concerned. I felt that suffered, but I didn't dislike the game because of it.
Right.
That would really be it's because I don't play too many video games, so like I'm not noting it's like, oh well, there's a little glitch in the X, Y, and Z. But yeah, like it kind of took me out was just the way they did the end. But that's a little tiny nitpick. I fell in love almost instantaneously with that game.
Yeah. I'd say I'd agree with you that for different reasons though. For me, with the Joker Titan thing, that didn't bother me so much. And after later installments, that decision that the Joker makes in that point in the game has long-lasting effects, at least. Like, it's not just like, okay, he did this to himself and things just go back to status quo. No, it's like that kind of sets up the conflict for the rest of the series. But what I didn't like about that interaction was the fact that, like, okay, you have like this monster Joker. Oh, and by the way, play these games. If you haven't played these games yet, I'm sorry, we're going to spoil the hell out of these games.
Well,
but
the game came out in freaking like 2009, so if you haven't played it
yet, yeah, get on the train that's been running ever since. But yeah, what they did is, okay, so you got this possibility of a giant hulking monster Joker to fight, but all the level ends up being is like you're beating up his henchman that he throws down at you, and then he comes down every once in a while to do something, and you have to do like one special quick time event with him, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't really much of a fun final boss battle, as it were.
Right.
And I'd say the other thing that didn't really irk me at the time, but as later installments grew more and more to expand, the Riddler trophies.
Oh God, I can't believe I didn't even think about this. Riddler trophies are the freaking bane of my existence. I can't stand. They put so many of those freaking things in there. And you gotta get them all to get 100%. And I'm just like, you could have cut out a third of these Riddler trophies, and it would have still been sufficiently annoying.
Well, that's the thing too, is like at that point with that first game though, even like saying like, okay, well the 100% achievement thing, sure, that's a fine achievement to get, but I'm like, it doesn't feel like a necessity at the time. But as we get into later games, it's like, oh my god, every single little trophy matters in that sense. And I'll have a little segment about that for sure. But
with the first one, I guess the Riddler trophies weren't so bad.
yeah, it was kind of cool. Like at the time when bonus content was kind of a really cool thing to have, because you'd get like a trophy, or you'd scan a certain object, and then you would get this kind of full detailed dossier on the character and stuff, and it would be kind of fun to read about this character in this continuity.
Yeah, and they always had those cool little like trophy things you could look at.
Yeah, like the achievements would actually unlock actual trophies and things like that, and they still do that in the games. But then the level of importance they put on the Riddler's contributions to this franchise kind of gets a little ridiculous. But overall, I mean, this was written by Paul Dini. Arkham Asylum was.
Yes.
So I feel that was a major contribution in how the feel of the game really translated well to the audience in general, as opposed to just diehard fans. Because in fact, it was.
Paul Dini has written comic books, wrote for the animated series. So, I mean, if you want somebody, the guy's won awards for his writing on the animated series. So, like, yeah, get this guy to write the story for the game. Seems like simple math,
Yeah, I remember when he's done a couple of interviews about like talking about how, especially with this series, writing for this series, how it's so different from writing for comics or for TV, because you're also including like functionality within the script as well, saying like if he performs this move, or if he performs this action during this encounter, this unlocks this portion of the story, or you get to progress this far, or you need to obtain this special item. And so writing for that, I know he says, was kind of a challenge, but also like this is a far more mature Batman story as it starts to develop more and more. Like it gets extremely dark.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, like, this isn't for smaller kids. It already had a like edgier kind of, I don't want to say punk rock, but like look to it. Like Harley Quinn, she's not in her traditional outfit, and she's kind of looking super sexy, and there's Poison Ivy in there, and like there's a lot of adult themes, and they don't. This is more of a Frank Miller style Batman, like
it's but, like the dystopian and the gothic themes have been escalated, and none of the females believe in wearing traditional pants.
Yeah, who needs pants?
It's like, yeah, I remember like Poison. Yeah, her whole outfit throughout the entire series is just like, I wear a shirt, and then I have like green leaf briefs, and that's it.
It's like a moss shirt.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, well, all right. Then we move on. 2011, right? Is Arkham City, I believe.
I think you are correct.
Yeah. And I remember when this is around the time I did get into Arkham Asylum finally, because I saw a teaser for Arkham City, which had Hugo Strange talking over Batman beating up thugs. And they were promising like, oh, now all of Gotham, or at least couple of blocks of Gotham, as it turned out, are your playground. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Well, I need to catch up on this series now. And again, written by Dini. However, this time I think Arlene Sorkin did not return for Harley Quinn. It was now Tara Strong, who had typically done Batgirl voice.
Yes, she did take on the Harley Quinn mantle for this one. And Tara Strong is one of the, she just gets work in the voice acting community. That chick is awesome. So I wasn't too sad that Arlene Sorkin decided to bow out for this one, or they decided to go in a different way.
Right. And yeah, this was the time that like the world really did open up, instead of like one facility with many different, levels and environments. It was now like almost an actual city.
Yeah. Because, you're playing Arkham Asylum. It seems pretty big already. Like you run through, it's a solid story. There's enough to do. And but at the end of it, you do want more. You're like, man, how come I couldn't drive the Batmobile around? Like there's only a scene where Batman walks out to the Batmobile one time and gets some stuff out of it, and then comes back. And so you're just like, oh man, I want more. And with Arkham City, they're like, you wanted it, here you go. Like, it was 2 or 3 times, or at least 3 times bigger than Arkham Asylum was, and there's just so much more to do. They just let the dogs loose on this one, and it was awesome. This kid's like, even if you had played Arkham Asylum, it did not prepare you for what they gave you with Arkham City.
I also felt like with City, you could not have played Asylum and stepped into City. I mean, you wouldn't have kind of the rich story background that Asylum sets up, but at the same time, for accessibility, Arkham City really was kind of really welcoming to new players who weren't as familiar with the franchise.
I mean, like you said, the Joker's Titan, his little dabble in some Hulk mess. It carries over to this story, but it's not essential that you had played the game before to know what's going on. Just like, oh, Joker took this stuff and he's all sick now, and he poisons Batman and stuff like. So I mean, like, they give you all the story beats that you need from the last one, and so you don't have to play Arkham Asylum to play Arkham City, and that was also very good.
Yeah, and also the fact that, like, to kind of go along with what you're saying about how it's like 2 to 3 times bigger than Asylum, the amount of story content in this is far more intricate and far more detailed, to the point that, like, there will be times where when I first played it, I was forgetting what the main plot even was. So it's like, it wasn't even essential to my knowledge. I'm like, oh, this is what happened in the previous one, because I'm like, there's like 5 separate storylines going on here, and I'm invested in each of them equally.
Yep. Yeah, you can just fall down the rabbit hole, and then it's just, yeah, like you said, like, oh, I completely forgot this isn't even the main story mission that I'm on right now. This is just some little side thing that they'll have random characters pop, like this guy's a cop and he's having this problem, and then it turns out that something else. And they did a really good job of that. You're interested in everything. You want to do everything. And for this one is where they introduced the Mad Hatter reality mixes, right?
Yeah, this is the first time we got Mad Hatter in there.
And so to carry on with that Scarecrow kind of deal, where it's like an alternate reality, you're not sure what's going on, you're distorted, and the gameplay kind of changes, the style of game changes. They do that again using the Mad Hatter in this one, and it was it's still really cool.
Yeah,
those weird, creepy bunnies that look like they came out of
what storybook, Alice in Wonderland.
No, like, what was that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal?
Oh, Donnie Darko. Yeah. Frank.
Yeah, I thought they looked more like that than I don't know. That's what they reminded me of. But anyway,
yeah, they do actually. Yeah, now that I think about it, that never really crossed my mind before. Wow, yeah, they really do take on that look.
But
I will admit, though, there was a point I was just kind of laughing at certain points, because this is all supposed to take place within an evening.
Yeah.
And I'm in Asylum, though, because everything kind of followed, like, okay, you achieved this objective, now go meet Killer Croc, now go deal with Ivy's plants. There wasn't a lot of like, oh, well, you could do that, or you could go do this too. Sometimes they'll provide that option, but at the same time, like, it was very much like, okay, move from plot point to plot point.
It was very linear.
Yeah. Whereas with this one, you have the option of, okay, there's the main Joker storyline, there's the main or there's the Mad Hatter sequence, there's what was the other, Azrael's hanging around on rooftops somewhere, someone's leaving dead bodies in alleyways, you get to answer Mr. Zaz's phone calls, or so. It's like there's a lot going on for one night, man.
And you could also just patrol the city and stop random crimes and stuff.
Yeah, random shit's just happening on the streets, and you have to go rescue like innocent people trapped in this war zone, essentially. Yeah. But it was at that point where I'm kind of like, okay, this is the longest night ever, no doubt. Yeah. And it's not because it just feels like, but it's like, I've literally been playing for 12 hours now, and the sun hasn't come up.
But you're like, yeah, man, that's Batman. He can get all this stuff done in one night. He can have, life changing plot experiences happen to him and just roll through it. And he can stop 7 supervillains in one night.
Yeah. Well, I'd say out of all the kind of plots and side missions or even the main missions that were taking place, what was kind of the highlight for you for Arkham City?
Arkham City. I think actually, the main one, I think, because like this is they hit you pretty hard at the end with the main plot point from this one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I feel like it's deservedly the main one. I was fully engulfed in it. Your Batman, he's trying to save himself. He's worried about if he's going crazy or not, and all these different things. And that took it home for me, and I really liked the end. I thought that like a lot of people had a problem with it. But I don't know. I didn't think they were making any more games after this, and I was like, oh well, that's a fitting end for for this run.
Sure.
Because I just didn't think it could get any better. Like Arkham City was ridiculous.
And I'll admit, like, if that was to be that character's curtain call, that would have been a cool way to go, or at least that actor's portrayal of that character. Because after that game, I thought he emphatically stated, like, I think I'm done with the character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm going to come back for and this seems like a kind of a good send off for that character.
Oh, dude, totally. It was, yeah. Mark Hamill had said that he's not voicing the Joker anymore after this game. And I was just like, well, I mean, if you're going to quit, this is the one to quit on, just because it was grand, and it had everything you wanted, and you just love Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy together.
Oh yeah,
they've been working together for so long. I mean, it's clockwork now. But Mark Hamill had said he didn't want to do it anymore, and so I played this game with also that little the little tier kind of single tier because it was like that's my whole childhood. He's been the voice of the Joker, so. It's a shame to see him go, but this game, I don't have a lot of negs on this game. There's no
that last scene where pretty much he bungles his own chances for saving his life, essentially.
Yeah,
and Batman's like what the funny part is? He's like, in spite of everything you've done, I still would have saved you. And the fact that Joker like ends on that laugh, essentially being like, that is pretty funny. And then that's it. And I'm like, wow, that's like epic kind of last line for a character.
And I mean, like, this one had Talia al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul. I mean, like, they had some deep pulls, and it was just a solid game.
Now, here's the thing, though. You said, like, after this one, you hadn't anticipated that they would be continuing the series. However, these games are very well known for hiding hints at what comes next in their games. Like in Arkham Asylum, there was that secret room that had the plans for Arkham City, and in Arkham City, there's that one boat that kind of sets up what the next installment was going to be about.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think about that kind of lacing little hints throughout?
Well, in the one hand, I liked it on the level where that Batman continues on. Like there's always more story. So at first, when you find these secret things, like they don't have to make another game for it. This is just Batman running across something that Batman would run across, and it's like, okay, file that one for for an adventure on a later date. But so I mean, I liked them. I think it's cool. They throw that little Easter egg in there, and they kind of give you a taste of you can try to figure out what what they're going to carry the story with. When you find the plans for Arkham City, you're just like, okay, well, some megalomaniac is trying to overstep his bounds. This would never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, bam, they come up with Arkham City. You're just like, what? But with the Scarecrow kind of Easter egg in this one, it wasn't as hooking, because it's just like, oh, okay, the Scarecrow is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much what I took from that, and that was it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. They're letting you know that he didn't die in the last game, and I didn't really think too much of it as far as a next game was concerned, especially since I heard that Mark Hamill was quitting. I was like, well, the Joker's dead. Mark Hamill's not doing it anymore. They're probably not going to make any more of these games. So
Right. That's what I was kind of wondering going in. Before we move on to the other two installments, though, this was kind of the first game that had the additional there was additional DLC for the first one, but with regards to like story expansions. And did you play any of the story expansions?
Oh, absolutely.
It was the what was it, Catwoman stuff and Harley Quinn's Revenge, right? Were the main kind of thrusts for.
The Catwoman stuff you kind of got with the game because there's integral to the game to move it along.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the Catwoman stuff, and then you can go afterwards and like find all of her jewelry or some crap. But the thing I didn't like about the other characters is when you're playing as Batman, you get all of Batman's gadgets, and then you go to play as somebody else, and it's like you're handcuffed, and it took a lot to get used to the other characters. It was really cool that they did them, but I don't know. I felt like Catwoman's only got like 4 things on her. She's got like some caltrops and a whip,
right?
And like she's got a crazy like thief vision, but it's not it's not the freaking detective mode. It doesn't give you all. So like I was just like, oh god, I just want detective mode.
If anything, it was more of a hindrance too, because that vision is really blurry for her, and I'm just like, I have no idea. I might as well just be in regular vision. I have no idea what I'm looking at.
I guess it helped out in some of the places where it was like super dark. The game is very dark, like as far as the lighting is concerned. So that helped out in that you could figure out which way to point her when you're in a room full of dudes that need beat up. But I mean, like it was more of a handicap. So I was like, oh my god, let me play with Batman, please.
And like there was some stuff in this game I'm like exceeded a lot of the comfort level probably of the first game too, with regards to more mature content, like because you listen in on police, or you listen on radio wavelengths, and you hear all the criminals like talking about stuff, and they're like calling Catwoman a bitch and everything, like, oh my god, and like saying like I'd do this to Harley or whatever, and then like like extreme death all around with regards to it too. It's like they just keep upping the ante with regards to violence and with regards to like adult tone in this series.
Yeah, were these all rated M?
No, the first two were. I think the first two and Origins were teen, and then Night was the one with the full M rating, which I kind of get that because they really go for the jugular in that stuff. But I figured before we get into Night, we'll talk a little bit about Origins. But also, one thing that really still again was starting to irk me again, even though they made it part of the actual story content this time, and the fact that you got to collect this many trophies in order to get a secret room and free hostages from Riddler.
Yeah.
Those damn Riddler trophies.
Yeah, this is where this one they take the cake. It's where you're just like, okay, I'm officially annoyed by these things. Yeah, man, Riddler tokens. I can't stand them.
Well, we get kind of more of them with. Let's take a detour to Montreal, WB Montreal, with 2000. I believe it's 2013's Arkham Origins.
Let me check here. Let's see here. Lego Batman 2 came out in 2012.
I've never played any of the Lego Batman. Maybe I will have to, and we can do a podcast about that.
Yeah, and any of the Lego games are pretty much the same.
That's what I've heard.
Gameplay is concerned, but they're all pretty good. All right. Yes, Arkham Origins released in October 2013.
And this was the one that wasn't helmed by Rocksteady, because I believe they were at that point setting up to develop Night, but they were probably too busy, and Origins was kind of an afterthought. Like I had the feeling like this originally wasn't even going to be tied to the Arkham series at all.
Well, I thought that my kind of theory on it was like, how they have the Call of Duty or the Madden games. They don't have. It's not just one company that actually develops the software, they kind of go off years so that they can crank one out every year.
Yeah.
And so I thought since these games are so popular, that's what they were doing. They let WB Montreal take this one so that Rocksteady could develop theirs for 2 years, because also they had the system upgrade. The Xbox One came out, and they had to make the new game for that. So that's why I thought they're sliding Montreal in right here as a kind of a stopgap to get a game out, and then Rockstar would have the next game after that.
But yeah, and so this was kind of, I guess, framed up to be something of a prequel to the whole series. And it really has nothing to do with anything Arkham related. It just kind of sets up some dynamics such as Joker and other characters too that we've seen just at earlier points in their lives. And it's like, again, another long night. This time I think it's Christmas Eve or something.
Yeah.
And Batman's being hunted. He's only been at the hero game for, I think, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
And he's being hunted by a bunch of assassins hired by Black Mask, who later is revealed to be the Joker.
Dun, dun, dun!
Sorry, spoilers again. But yeah, like this is supposed to be the first time they've ever met each other.
Yeah, and like this is, Arkham Origins is kind of telling the tale of like, okay, Batman has rounded up these super crazed, super villains. Where do we put these guys? And that's kind of the story to it, is that, that's what like the Arkham tie-in is, that this is before Arkham really, existed in its full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got these guys and we don't know what to do with them. I like this game, but I mean, a lot of people kind of hate on it because the graphics weren't. I want to say they seemed a little bit worse than in Arkham City.
And again, you feel that was just due to the fact it was from a different developer and different software?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't feel like they had, I mean, like Rocksteady, they've got years and years in the business, and they definitely had the foothold and the idea of what they wanted to do. So they were able to produce a better product. I mean, I don't want to knock this game too much because I did really like it, but the thing I think that people really give it a lot of hate for is that when Arkham Asylum came out, that changed the game as far as Batman gaming was concerned, and then when Arkham City came out, it changed the game again. And this game was more of a parallel to Arkham City than advancing, Batman gaming on a whole, and I feel like it takes a lot of hate for that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that, and the fact that like, yeah, it's a fine game. Like, there's nothing really inherently terrible or wrong with it. It's just everyone at that point had been expecting the next Arkham game to advance even further or take this bold leap forward with regards to its gameplay or story. And yeah, you're very much right. Like, Arkham Origins is just kind of like, it's just coasting along pretty well at an Arkham City pace.
Yeah. I mean, you get new gadgets. They throw in Deathstroke, the Terminator. You can play as a couple different people. I think you get Robin for a little bit in this one.
Yeah, I think that was some of the DLC stuff. Yeah, included like Robin, and there was a cool like the Mr. Freeze kind of side quest, like the origin DLC. For him in this.
And I mean, like, it was a solid game. A lot of fun. When you get the electrocutioner's gloves, I feel like the game kind of gets a little broken.
Oh yeah, things become maybe a little too simple.
Yeah, but it's still a blast. Like, I still had a lot of fun playing this game. It's cool. Just like the idea that this time they're out for Batman. You have Firefly in this one.
Copperhead. Yeah.
Copperhead. And I liked their take on Copperhead too. That was really different. That fight sequence is pretty cool too. But I mean, like, yeah, it's got a decent story with a bunch of cool stuff. You get this is I think another thing a lot of people had a problem with is like the omniscient bat computer filming video sequence deal.
Oh, construction, crime reconstruction.
Yeah, where it's like, how does this happen?
Like, wow, it's like every little detail you can just piece together an entire movie scene, essentially.
I mean, yeah, I guess if Batman had like placed small like CCTV video cameras all over Gotham, then like he would somehow be able to work this out. But
well,
but that was the main problem, I think, or not a main problem, but a problem people were kind of complaining about. It's like, well, where does this video come from? Like,
well, I mean, to be fair, the Arkham Knight will take that ball and roll with it in a big wave later on. But one thing I really did enjoy about was, again, it always comes back to kind of Batman and Joker for me in this series, is that dynamic is well set up in this installment, and the fact that, like, okay, is kind of a cool, believable starting point for both characters, and especially for the fact that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are nowhere in this game.
Yeah,
like, who was it? Troy Baker was the new Joker voice, and he does a good job, I feel, of really recapturing the Hamill feel of the character.
Yeah, and Roger Craig Smith voices Batman.
What did you think of his take on Batman? Because he's known for doing lighter stuff. Like, he's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. So when I read that, I'm like, Sonic's going to be Batman. But then I hear his voice. I'm like, you know what? That's okay, but it's still not Kevin Conroy.
No, and like I think they both. It was kind of like an homage to Kevin and Mark. I feel like they didn't really take their own make their own take on it. If you watched what movie was that? Batman Under the Red Hood.
Right.
The Joker in that one, John DiMaggio does the Joker. And that was a really good one. I was like, wow, that's different. That's not trying to be Mark Hamill. It's his own thing, and he rocked it. And I didn't get that from this game. But again, it's not bad though. I'm like, I don't want to sound like I didn't like the game at all, because I mean, I still had a bunch of fun playing it. Right. But yeah, I thought the voice acting wasn't as good. But again, like if you got to play, it's like trying to play Michael Jordan and LeBron James in 2-on-2 basketball. It's like, what are you gonna do? They're gonna win.
Yeah, I think what you said had a lot of relevance to it. The idea of like, yeah, these are not really their own original takes. They're very much kind of taking cues from what's been done before in the series, but also like the way this is set up is that these are younger versions of those characters we've already established in Asylum and City. So for what they did, like Troy Baker, I mean, the way I kind of lined it up in my mind, I'm like, Troy Baker's Joker, I feel like, yeah, that could naturally age into a Mark Hamill Joker.
Yes.
Yeah, he does a good job of playing young Mark Hamill-ish Joker. And for Roger Craig Smith, I'm like, you know what? A little bit of what he's doing with his inflection, with his tone, with the level of either calm or aggression he can have in his voice at that time, some of that is very reminiscent of Kevin Conroy's delivery. And that, yeah, give it time, this voice, you could believe, age into a Kevin Conroy voice. So I thought, it was a fine enough job. But yeah, of course, like you were saying, it's like, it's not the originals, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do? So like, if you're not Kevin Conroy, what are you supposed to do?
And this one had its fair share of like side missions as well, to kind of go along with the idea of paralleling City, in that it wasn't just point A to point B with this either. Like, there was stuff involving there was the main story. There was, again, he's not Riddler, but he's Enigma, and his damn trophies and towers blocking your signal.
I did like that.
That was kind of cool, because that actually impeded kind of your effectiveness in the game too.
Yeah. So I mean, I was down for that, but if we didn't have to find 30 million stinking Enigma trophies, then I would have been a little happier.
And there was also stuff. Anarchy was referenced in it.
Yeah. You can find little anarchy symbols all over, and that's. See, I mean, like, they could have just done that. Like, they could take out a lot of this extra crap. Like, I know getting to 100% isn't exactly like necessary for the story or whatever, but
right.
if you get to 97%, you want to finish it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and so that, yeah, oh god, I can complain about this stupid Riddler trophies all day.
Well, there's no getting around it now. We might as well just dive into this past year's big hit for everyone except PC owners. Batman Arkham Knight, the Xbox One release. This was the reason I have an Xbox One, aside from the fact that I wanted to see what all the hubbub about Blu-ray players was about. Yeah, other than that, this was the reason I bought an Xbox One, was to play this game.
Yep. I did not need an Xbox One until this game came out. I just didn't see, again, I'm not a huge gamer, so that's not, having the next console isn't the main priority for me. As soon as this game came out, I bought an Xbox One. That was just how it went down.
And so this allegedly is the final installment in the Arkham series. Takes place 9 months after the events of Arkham City. And this time you have a quote-unquote full Gotham City to explore. But, I mean, I'll give them this. It is a massive cityscape that you have to traverse around.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like 3 different maps, GTA style, where you're kind of traveling from island to island. It's huge, and there's so much to do in this one. They really unleashed all the extra power of the new console on this one, and obviously the main addition is the Batmobile.
Yep.
And I mean, I love the Batmobile. This game gets a lot of crap because you do spend a good amount of time in the Batmobile, but this is the only thing that is different from all the other games.
Right.
Because if you're not doing these Batmobile missions, you'd be doing the same missions, on a smaller scale as Batman. Like, you're sneaking around in a Batmobile, and you got this crazy tank mode, and you're doing. It's basically the same missions, except now you're in a Batmobile versus Batman running around in a building. And so, like, I didn't hate it as much as a lot of people did. But I don't see what they were complaining about, because it was a whole new aspect of the game that we'd never had before.
I'll admit, it's like, here's the old deal. I don't loathe the game at all. I thoroughly enjoy the game, and I enjoy the Batmobile sequences. There were just some points in the game where I'm kind of like, because I'm always when it comes to these games, especially, I'm not thinking in terms of like, oh, just for the game experience. Like, I'm like, from the story experience too, since the story is so immersive like that. I'm like, really? This is going to be a Batmobile sequence? Okay, sure, fine. And and the battles go by pretty quick and everything like that. And it is fun to electrocute people just by touch. Like, the one thing I'll say for these games is Batman really comes up to the line on his no killing rule.
Yeah, this one I'd say is the worst, as far as like, how do you explain somebody getting run over at 35, like 50 something miles an hour, however fast you're driving, and like you have they sort of give you this electromagnetic field or whatever that like pushes people out of the way, but physically there's no way that would ever happen.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I think your Grand Theft Auto kind of comparison was very accurate in the fact that, like, this is like Grand Theft Auto, except if you run over people in this, the cops don't care, because the cops got bigger things to worry about.
Oh, yeah, and what was I just about to say? Oh, goodness sake. No, I lost it.
There was some stuff in here that I'm kind of like, at first I was kind of like, with regards to the characterization, was kind of curious about, but then as the story went on and as I got a little bit more information with regards to what was taking place in the story, I'm like, oh, it makes sense now. Like, the Batman's always been so standoffish when it comes to help in these games. Like, his whole like, no, don't get involved, or no, don't worry about me right now, or no, you got to focus on this, and like basically putting down his sidekicks in a way.
Well, I chalk that up to them just not being able to do it. It's like we can't really spend extra processing power on having you do a tag team fight with Nightwing. So we're just gonna be like, you know, Batman does the Batman thing. Like, nah, I got it. I'm Batman. You don't have to fucking worry about it.
Yeah, I guess that is part from the gamer standpoint. It's like, or from the game development standpoint, it's like, well, yeah, this is gonna eat up a lot of our processing power to always have them at the ready for whatever kind of fight.
Yeah.
I mean, but they find a way to work that conflict in very well to this story. Yeah. In which, yeah, for once, Scarecrow gets center stage for the most part, or he's supposed to, anyways. But then there's the actual Arkham Knight, and then there's an imaginary friend.
Now, the Joker in this one is so awesome because he's completely in Batman's head, and he's just kind of like along for the ride. And it's glorious. Mark Hamill just gets to go crazy with it, and you can tell he's just having a blast. And I think that's one of the reasons he came back is because he's not even the villain, but he's such an integral part of the story in Batman's head the whole time. And then just to see how they animate him, he's like, Batman will be in a room, fighting 25 dudes, and the Joker's sitting up on a balcony swinging his legs.
Yeah, that was a very pleasant surprise. Did you see that surprise coming at all?
No.
That was very welcome.
Unexpected, beautiful little nugget of gold right there.
Yeah, it's like, and what you're saying is very true. It's like it's a Joker you haven't seen. Like, he's not an antagonist in a way. I mean, he's being antagonizing definitely, but it's like he's on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and he's just commenting from the sidelines and making jokes at your expense during the action. Yeah.
And then, as Batman's fighting, he gets more and more brutal. Joker's like, "Hey, man, you feel all right? You got a little crazy with that guy. Did you have to break his arm in 4 places?"
Right.
So
right.
No, I loved it. I just thought that this is one of the reasons that Mark Hamill agreed to come back, just because you got to have so much fun with the Joker character, and since he wasn't the main villain, he got to just do random little Joker things that you expect from the Joker, but you may not have time for if you need to have him progress the story along.
Right. And it was also that familiarity that Joker had with Batman, even more so than previous installments, where now he's calling him Bruce.
Yeah.
And the pure sneeringness and venom he puts into every time he says Bruce. I'm just he's like, he's on the inside now. Oh my God, this is insane. And that's what I was kind of mentioning a little bit earlier, and the fact that throughout this series, Batman gets more standoffish, more brutal. I mean, for a development standpoint, it makes sense, but also in terms of story standpoint, the fact that he does have kind of this influence in his head. At one point, Joker even makes fun of it. He's like, "Man, Batsy, that Batmobile sure is decked out this time around. It's like an evil clown was whispering in your ear to make all kinds of weaponry on it." Yeah, even the fact that the Batmobile is just a tank now makes sense because, yeah, it's
driving around Gotham. Did you feel like Batman does more damage to the city than
yes, definitely. Here's the whole deal. The tanks don't even get to fire off a shot, and when they do, they're chasing me, and so it's I'm technically responsible for a lot of destruction in the city more so than anyone else. Firefly sets fire to 1 or 2 fire stations. I end up crashing through 5 buildings trying to chase his ass.
Yeah.
It's just oh my gosh. And the amount of people I electrocute just by driving over them is hilarious.
I don't know about that electrocution thing. I think a couple of those people bought it for sure.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, go ahead.
They also, and it's what they did in Arkham City. They do it again here for Arkham Knight. They clear the streets. It's not regular people out on the streets for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And with the story, they just they come up with some scenario where there's no one on the street. So all the people that you would be hitting and possibly killing, they're all criminals anyway.
Right. Now I feel that kind of sort of was a missed opportunity, because that's what I was kind of expecting the next installment to be after City. Was like, okay, they're teasing that we're going to be exploring Gotham in, as a whole. I'm like, oh wow, so that'll be like, okay, you get to rescue more innocent civilians, or you get to rescue like whole groups of people as opposed to this, or you get to actually interact with Gotham's citizens along with the criminals. But I'm just like, oh no, okay, well we cleared it out, and so it's just all bad guys. It's just a bigger Arkham City in a way. I mean, it was still fun, but I just kind of got the feeling like there was kind of a missed opportunity and be able to have like just random bystanders in there.
Yeah, and also it would have been cool to have a different dynamic to where it's like you're not in danger, but you can't have somebody notice you, so you're like you had to sneak around a little bit more. That might have been an interesting aspect too, because like you're just trying to do something. Or it's like when you break into the police station or something like that. You're not worried about the cops attacking you, but they can't see you also.
Right. No, yeah, I feel that was kind of a missed opportunity, but at the same time, for what we got, I felt worked very well, because I mean, there is still plenty of innocence and peril and things like that, and there is still plenty of those times where it's like, I can't be seen, I can't be detected doing this. Like your detective vision is even more impaired in this installment than in others, because now there are not just people who can jam your detective mode signal, but there are people who will seek you out. Like they'll be able to track you if you're in it too long. So you have to rely more on, other abilities.
Yeah, this is the first one they brought in like trained bat fighters, and so everyone's more geared towards catching you. So that did add a level of difficulty to the game.
And they're all trained by a guy named the Arkham Knight, who knows a lot about Batman,
who
seems to have been trained by Batman, and who seems to have a serious chip on his shoulder when it comes to Batman.
Spoiler.
Did you see that revelation coming a mile away?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed because I was like, man, this just seems like Under the Red Hood. And sure enough, here we are under the Red Hood. And if they hadn't like just made the movie, and I don't know, Jason Todd has been getting a lot more, like he's doing a lot more in the comic books, and he's getting a lot more. He's just having a bigger persona, everywhere. So I was kind of done with this storyline.
Right.
I wish they would have, kind of gone a different way. But again, like I'm not gonna complain. Like I don't want the game to come out. So.
What really kind of undermined that revelation for me was the fact that there was a Red Hood story expansion pack.
Yeah,
that was if they'd kept that a secret after up until the actual release, or had announced like, okay, that's one of the later editions. Like I feel the twist would have had more impact maybe, but the fact that it was just like pre-order now and you'll get Red Hood story expand. I'm like, well, gee. I wonder who this Red Hoodish type character named the Arkham Knight is then. Like, at least there would have been a little bit more of my suspension of disbelief, or a little bit more surprise on my end to be like, oh, okay, so they did go with Jason, as opposed to like a lot of theories. I remember when people were first trying to figure out who this character was, and like it's Damian Wayne, or it's a clone of Bruce or something. Like there were some outlandish type theories. Some were actually saying it's like, oh, it is the Joker back. I'm like, no.
Please no.
but then it was like, oh, okay, it is Jason Todd. All right. But I mean, for the sake of the story, it worked well, because I have a feeling the reason why this did get a mature rating as opposed to the teen rating from a lot of the other games was the lengths that they were willing to show a lot of our main characters brutalized, shot, and tortured.
Yeah. They killed Barbara Gordon in this one. You later find out she's not dead, but
not only killed her, she shot herself in the head.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy God. The way they did that too is very effective. Like she pulls up the gun and then Joker walks across your field of vision, mimicking like a shooting yourself in the head motion.
Yeah.
And then they cut back to it.
This is also too where like the Joker freaking devil on your shoulder. Just he gets the time to shine. Like he's just sadistic, and he's just messing with Batman the whole time, and it's just like, yeah, wow, when the whole game you pretty much think she's dead, and I was like, that is heavy. I didn't think that they would, I was like, wow, they actually killed Barbara Gordon, and they killed her in that way, and that's huge.
Yeah. But then I should have seen that coming, though. I should have seen the whole, like, well, it's fear gas.
Yeah, and this is where they pull, from some of my favorite Batman the Animated Series um, episodes. There's the one episode where Barbara Gordon gets gassed with fear gas, and she has this whole dream where Batman gets caught and yada yada, and it's this very dramatic thing. And then it turns out to be not true. So this is kind of a play on that, where now it's Batman who's under the gas and he sees Barbara die. But yeah, so like they kind of pulled from that. They pulled from Under the Red Hood, and yeah, I don't know. Like this game, I felt it was just like, because I've seen all these kind of plot lines before. I felt as far as story, it wasn't the strongest, but as far as gameplay, it definitely was.
Well, aside from because he didn't write Origins, but Dini didn't write this one either, and so this is the one where I feel like they actually pulled from their own little group of writers and tried their best to encapsulate what Dini had done with the first two. But at the same time, you could kind of tell this was in different hands and that it was more focused on showing off more features than it was about a more gripping plot than what had been provided in the first two installments. I mean, there is emotional resonance. Like, when he believes she's dead, when he gets into the van at the end, to kind of drive off, you get that feeling like, oh crap, is this really how this is going to end? Like, this is depressing as hell. There are payoffs. There are emotional payoffs, definitely. But this was I feel this was kind of a fine final installment. It definitely upped the wow factor and upped the replayability, and the fact that you just have this massive city to explore as many times over as you want and do things so many different ways. But
yeah, dude, it's you get a whole bunch of extra gadgets. You got the Batmobile, that adds another level of gadgetry and all kinds of good stuff on it. I thought as far as like the story was concerned, I was kind of hoping that they're gonna try to like work Dick Grayson as the Gotham Knight or the Arkham Knight.
Yeah, that could have been.
Yeah, because you get a few tag team missions with Nightwing, and I was like, man, you can I don't know. I was hoping it wasn't Jason Todd, and of course it was. But when you're throwing the Scarecrow in there, you got crazy Joker Venom in the mix. Like, like you could have
those torture flashback sequences were affected. Like, I was like, man, this is demented. Like, it's not exactly how it was handled in the comics, of course, but I'm just like, wow, this is, and that's where I feel a lot of the mature stuff comes from. Is like those torture sequences. The implications are like fucked up.
Yeah, ridiculousness. But a great game. I loved it. I was not put off by the Batmobile. I wasn't. I mean, the Riddler tokens were just the most absurd thing.
Let's talk about the Riddler trophies this time, because in this one, it's like never more has 100% completion been important to getting the true ending of a game. If you really cared about the true ending of the game, because even the true ending of the game, I'm kind of like, okay, that's weird, but okay, cool. Batman goes on, like you were saying earlier, Batman continues in some way, shape, or form, but that's an interesting. First off, the Riddler trophies and the Riddler racetracks.
I was again like this. This is like all Batmobile, pretty much, and I loved them. Okay. I was like, more of this stuff. Because one of my other favorite video games, like again, I don't play very many video games, is Mario Kart. So you give me Mario Kart and Batman mixed together, I am a happy camper.
You know what? There was the some of the racetracks and some of the puzzle solving challenges involving the Batmobile I thought were very well done. The only thing that went through my head at the time was like, really, why is the Riddler so hung up on this one thing? He's got unlimited resources from the looks of things. If he has all this time and money apparently to build these racetracks, I'm like, wow, this dude's got like, why isn't he the main villain? It's like he's got resources up the wazoo to do all this stuff.
And it's like, if Batman is really out there working, how did the Riddler build all of this?
And yeah, it's like, how did Batman not notice that there's like 2-mile long racetracks underground?
Traps.
Death traps, yeah, with with crushers and spikes and flamethrowers, and you got to drive up walls. And it's like, how did you not notice this was taking place in your sewer systems, Batman? You should know this city.
Municipal workers are going to get killed.
It's not like, yeah, well, he clearly has been working on this for all that time, several months now. How did no one notice all this stuff underground? But yeah, that. You need to catch all those Riddler. Got to catch them all, apparently. Need to complete all the side quests to 100% completion in order to get the true. What do you think of the true ending? What did you kind of interpret that as being? Like, what exactly was that thing?
I honestly don't. I mean, like, I didn't like it. I think just because I had to go, like, I mean, I was online for, a cumulative like day and a half trying to find all these stupid Riddler tokens, and then like with the end, yeah, I don't know what to say, man. Those Riddler tokens took it out of me.
Yeah, what I kind of discerned was like, okay, he is back, but now he doesn't need the Bruce Wayne part of him,
right?
And he's found a way to weaponize the gas or something like that to his advantage or something.
Yeah,
so he's back to being mythic as opposed to being a man.
Yeah,
which I kind of felt it's like, okay, that would be at least Batman didn't quit in this one. He's not hanging around. He's not hanging around cafes.
Just him and the fiance and Alfred. just chilling in some Italian bistro or whatever.
Did you get a chance to do any of the additional DLC stuff, like the Seasons of Infamy or the Arkham episodes or anything like that?
I played the Batgirl DLC,
and
I played the Harley Quinn little mission. Yeah, I haven't played much more than that, just because I don't know. I feel like with this one too, like this game is the most geared towards the game, and versus like a Batman story. So a lot of the DLC, I'm just like, man, like I felt like they're just trying to get my money. And
yeah, here's the thing. I got the season pass.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff I thought was like the Batgirl thing, since it is a prequel in a way. It's like, you know what? Anything to hear more of Mark Hamill as doing actual Joker things and everything. Sure, that's fine. And I thought it was a fine enough little side mission. But a lot of the Arkham episode stuff, other than that, was very either too short, too easy, or didn't have enough lasting impact for me. Like some of it takes place after the end of the game, essentially. But the way characters are acting, it's like Batman not being around is kind of not a big deal for any of them. I think the person who has the most to say about it is Robin in his side story. But of course, it's because Robin's like, he would have done this better, or Robin beating himself up essentially.
Yeah, you get the all right, I'm gonna deep pull here. The Rodimus Prime effect.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, man. Like it's always like, will I ever be good enough? Can I compare? And like if you could just drop that whole whiny mess out, that'd be great, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like it's Tim Drake Robin who's saying this stuff, and he's like, but like even Nightwing in Nightwing's own solo mission thing, he's just he barely talks about Batman. He's just like, it's no big deal. It's not like I was his first partner or anything like that. But I will say though, the add-ons for the main story, the Seasons of Infamy, I feel they're worthwhile kind of checking out. They're not as, I mean, they're more side missions, but they're definitely more ingrained into the actual gameplay, for the current main mission. And I'm not gonna lie, the ending to the Mr. Freeze one kind of touched me, in just the right way.
In your naughty
emotionally. No, not naughty place. But no, like
that's why you're black man.
I'd say if anything, or just check out like the season, check out the Mr. Freeze mission, or check out some of the cutscenes, because like it's actually a pretty emotionally satisfying conclusion for that character. I feel
No,
in this universe.
Arkham City or Arkham Knight, where you go find find Nora Freeze. I think it was Arkham City.
Well, I mean, they don't kidnap, but I mean, they take her like cryotube in Arkham City in order to make the cure or make him.
Yeah, that was Arkham City.
But in this one, I mean, it revolves around that again, except it's by the Arkham Knight's cronies in order to get Mr. Freeze to get involved in the fight against Batman, and Mr. Freeze wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So Batman, offers to help him find his wife, and the ending to it is actually. It's actually kind of sad, really.
Well, I feel like when they took Mr. Freeze and kind of changed him from the super stupid cartoony version that they had in the past with the animated series, they added this whole Shakespearean freaking tragedy to the deal. Yeah, Mr. Freeze is always one of those characters that, when done right, can hit home emotionally. Mm-hmm. And he's good for that when they write him well.
But I feel like for quite a few characters, this definitely touched upon the finality of this installment. Like, for that side mission, you get a definite the end with those characters involved with Mr. Freeze. With frankly the underrated character in this one, who everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, that character died, right? Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
Ends up full on turning to the good side at the end, sacrificing himself. And it's just no one talks about that kind of major death in the story.
Yeah, and I like that too. That's true. You kind of just gloss right over it, but I like that. She was good, but she wasn't doing it, for any good purpose. It was Poison Ivy isn't necessarily a bad character, or no, she's totally a bad character. But if nature was to be harmed, there's no side that she would take. It's she's choosing the side of life and then the plants and all that good stuff. Right. So I liked how they did that for her.
Yeah, it wasn't complete it wasn't a completely altruistic thing, of course, but it's at the same time, it was kind of a big sacrifice, and it was emotionally satisfying for that character too, in a way, because I'm that would be kind of how this character would probably go out.
Yeah.
In any other iteration, it's doing it for nature, essentially.
Yeah, but, Poison Ivy isn't one of those just punch her in the face kind of villains. So you got to have a bigger. It's got to be a little different for her. I liked how they did it. I thought that with everything that was pretty good. That was a solid goodbye.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So solid goodbye is definitely. You get the feeling that Knight is the solid goodbye for this series, but I don't know. Rocksteady's always on to the next thing, and kind of talking about maybe other ideas or projects. Where would you want two kind of questions? Where would you want maybe Rocksteady to go next if it were to keep on going with superhero stuff? And also, where would you see any future Batman games going to?
Ooh, space? No, let's see here. A game I would like. I think you'd have to do. I mean, there's another game that came out called. It has nothing to do with Batman. Middle Earth: Shadows of Mordor.
Yeah.
That game was awesome. I think that that took. They saw what was going on with Batman, and they took it to a different area and took it in the next level. I'd like to see how Batman fires back, I want to say. Just because that game you can take over people's minds and stuff like that, but it'd be cool if you set up an informant network, where Batman's gotta do things, and he's got people he talks to, and you can win people over or lose people depending on what you do. Also, I would like to see a little more of the who makes those games? The Knights of the Old Republic style, where you choose how to deal with people. You can be a little more angry. You can be more standoffish, and that'll have effects in the game. Where it's hey, I'm not taking Robin's help right now, but then Robin won't be available to me later on.
Right, right. Yeah, or yeah, you saying Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, kind of what BioWare did with that game and with Mass Effect. Yeah.
Yes. So I
Except
mean, like, there's there's new things that they can pull on, and again with these new systems they got, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to kind of add these touches. But as far as story goes, I don't know. I mean, it would kind of have to be a crazy like Frank Miller style like return to things.
yeah, I suppose so.
And it had to be a just absolutely absurd way to get everything back, because like they did kind of shut the door on Batman for this one. Like they're like, all right, books, the story's over, let's call it a day. So it would take some pretty intricate storytelling to work their way around that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be down for a new game for sure.
Is there any other hero you feel Rocksteady could do just as equal justice to as Batman? Like, because they hint at Oliver Queen, they hint at Lex Luthor and Superman in this. They hint at I believe the Atom. They hint at the Flash. Like, there's a bunch of like name drops in this last installment.
I'd like to see them do a Flash. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, especially with how profitable and popular the character is right now. It's like,
yeah, totally. I feel like they could do the Flash, and in the same way the Spider-Man game kind of took everyone's surprise. Like I think it was the Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
when it came out for like PlayStation 2, it like people were just like, holy crap, it doesn't suck to be Spider-Man. I think if they could make a Flash game to where you could get around the city and you could do a bunch of stuff, that would be really cool. I'd like to see that. Also, Daredevil to switch camps, but yeah, I would like to see a Daredevil game. I just love this fight system, so
yeah. It's like it's a little bit of like the up close impersonal fighting style from the Nolan movies mixed in with what do you call it, the Predator?
Yeah,
Predator technique or whatever, Predator combat.
And what was that? Who else could they do? Let's see here. See, I wouldn't be interested in the Superman game. Wonder Woman game might be pretty cool. They could do some different stuff with that too. And I'd like to see a solid Wonder Woman story. You don't get those too often, and
right.
And I'd like to see what they do with that.
Yeah, who knows? It's like hopefully they kind of still play in this kind of world with superheroes of some sort. And yeah, something really kind of as fun and as innovative as the Arkham series comes back around to entertain us on our screens. But one last question before we kind of wrap up here, and I'll give you some time to think about it too. What is your favorite Bat gadget out of the whole Arkham series, not including the Batmobile? So take some time to think about that. And in the meantime, you've been listening to the Chat Cave here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. As always, we've been your hosts, Mike McG and Max Andrews. Follow Max Andrews over at 3 Geeks Podcast, youtube.com/3 Geeks Network. And so, have you had some time to think, Max?
Yeah, I want to say explosive gel.
Yes.
I feel like that's my favorite. I like flipping around and dropping some explosive gel on the ground, and then blowing up 5 dudes and knocking them all out with some quick finishers. I'd say that's my favorite one.
Explosive gel, nice. I'd have to say for mine, it was one I thought I would never see in this game at any point because it just seemed so silly. But at the same time, when I got to use it, it was kind of fun. Is the in Arkham Knight, the voice synthesizer. except the bad guys could never catch on that I was using it, because you get to use it a couple times, like as you imitate Harley Quinn's voice and be like, go check that generator, and then you blow up the generator in front of him, or you tell him to go stand over here, and then you like come out of the grate and grab them. Except I would just use that all the time with many different voices.
It's like, what's the Riddler doing here?
yeah. Except I'd use it at the most inopportune times. Like, okay, I'm at the police station. I'm just gonna throw Man-Bat's voice over there for no reason, just because I can.
That's to fuck with them.
Or be like, you know, or the one voice I'd use a lot of that just confused the hell out of people and possibly make them shit their pants, Professor Pig. It'd be like, you'd have a bunch of goons down there and you'd like just shoot the voice synthesizer at them and they'd be like, Pig wants to make you better. And be like, what the fuck was that?
I did like how they did Professor Pig in this one.
I think that's also where we got a lot of mature rating stuff from, because I'm just like, yeah, this is full on Hannibal stuff going on here. This is weird.
Yeah, they came out with another a DC animated release where Professor Pig was kind of featured in the beginning, Batman versus Robin. And,
it was as a doll maker.
Right. Yeah, that was a doll maker, not Professor Pig. But
you know who played him in that though?
No, who?
Weird Al Yankovic.
Are you serious?
Yes. What? Here's the deal.
Awesome.
We might have to talk about these DC direct to DVDs movies at some point. The New 52 inspired ones, maybe, because
we definitely will.
out of all of the like the Batman ones, I feel are the more solid one. They're not great, but there's some stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And I've seen the most recent one too, the Bad Blood one. So we might have to do something.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
It's a
yeah.
But
general feel, but
like I said, that's another podcast for another time. But
I do like that idea. That was just really weird how they did Professor Pig. It's really sick, and you know, I liked the darker themes. You know, since I'm a 7-year-old trapped in a 32-year-old's body, I do enjoy when we get, you know, doing more adult things. You know, it's like, yeah, this could be a CSI episode. It just happens to have Batman in it, and and yeah, no, I like the little throw in there with Professor Pig. I like how they did them. I completely forgot that happened.
It's just one of like the 12 side stories going on.
Yeah,
so yeah,
they have deep pulls in this one.
I wholeheartedly recommend any of these games, honestly. Yeah, like go back, revisit Arkham Asylum, revisit Arkham City. Like I've kind of done that for myself. Like I actually want to play them in chronological order. Like I want to start with Origins and then just continue on through the series.
The problem with that is the gadgets.
The gadgets, yeah.
Yeah, because in Arkham Origins, this is the third game, so you've got third game style gadgets going on.
Then you go back to Asylum. Like, what happened to all those cool gadgets you had 2 years ago, man?
Exactly. So that's the thing. You're gonna play them. If you're gonna play them all the way through, you have to decide whether you're gonna play Arkham Origins first or Arkham Origins third. Either way, technically, you're playing them in chronological order.
Well, I mean that's still kind of the conundrum I find myself in whenever I revisit the Marvel movies. I'm like, which one do I start with first? Do I start with Iron Man or do I start with Captain America, technically? Because that is the first Avengers story. So it's like, but, you know, it's one of those many conundrums you have when you're a geek for superheroes.
It's a good problem to have, you know? It's one of those.
Yeah. A good problem to have in this day and age. Well, thank you once again. You've been listening to the Chat Cave. And thank you again, Max.
All right, Mike.
We'll see you all later.